Well, here we are, the 12th of March in the Rocky Mountains, and this is a typical scene inside the growing dome. Now here is the amazing winter greens that we sowed the seeds last September, and of course what you see is they're all sprouting away, going to seed. You can eat these flowers, they're quite delicious, but at some point very soon we've got to pull these out. But you can make green manure out of them, simply lie them down on the soil and let the worms compost them. And so those are just about the end of their life. I personally like to have them flower a little bit so the bees can come in and enjoy the benefits that these flowers give, the nectar. And so here's a typical scene in March. This is Swiss chard growing wonderfully well, very delicious, very fast growing at this time of year, so the leaves are really succulent. And this actually is a turnip, and these are also very fast growing, delicious turnip leaves. You can put them in salads or soups. And here we have real evidence of spring. Here is a grape and some new shoots for this year's crop of grapes. So very, very exciting. So here's our cloche that we use for early germination of some of our frost hardy crops. And if we look underneath, lo and behold, things are just going crazy and going gangbusters. And interesting, if we look at this particular row, these are turnips, and see, those turnips are actually going a little leggy, but when we've taken the cloche off, and now we're going to leave it off, they'll start to give out more firm leaves. But look at the turnips on this side, they've hardly germinated at all. And then, interesting enough, if we get a close-up of the carrots here, I don't know if you can see that little row of carrots, well, the carrots inside the cloche didn't even germinate at all, and the carrots outside are just now germinating. And I suspect that the carrots inside the cloche, the soil may have actually got too hot for those. So that's a very interesting experiment. And we're going to use the same cloche for starting some of our warm weather crops. Now I've got a little thing here which I think is really handy. It's called a soil thermometer, and the soil is 70 degrees on the top and 60 degrees lower down. So essentially at this time of year it would be warm enough to germinate our warm weather crops, but at night it'll fall down. So that's why it's useful to have this cloche for about the first 3 weeks of our warm weather crop germination. And while we're here, I want you to look at these beets. And you see how the beets are now starting to put out fresh leaves. And this is the time to harvest them, because once they start to put out fresh leaves, they start to go woody. So what I'm going to do with these beets, I'm going to harvest them all and make pickled beets. So that will be fun. So now I'm going to sow some warm weather crops actually in this garden bed. Very often I sow them in flats and transplant them, but because I want to demonstrate the use of our cloche, I'm going to sow them in this area. But first, because we need to replenish the nutrients, we've got some cotton ball compost here. So we're going to put that over the soil and fork it all in and prepare the soil bed for planting. So composted cotton ball compost is a product that comes from the areas of the country that sow cotton, and when they pluck the cotton from the plant, there's these husks left over, and they're mixed up with straw and other things and composted to make a really nice compost that will actually, because it's fairly coarse and it's got a lot of fibers in it, it aerates the soil, and so it's very good for this time of year to keep the soil aerated and help it warm up faster. So essentially when I do compost, I don't dig too deeply. The worms will come and mix the soil up. I just usually dig. See, there's the worm. See, there's some nice little worms. Look at those. and they're going to grow up big and strong and have babies. So we're very happy to see worms down there, and they actually are nature's plowmen. They move the organic matter down into the soil and provide wonderful nutrients, break everything up. So now we're leveling it up. So these are the summer crops I'm going to sow this time: a tomato, pepper, and summer squash. And essentially what I'm going to do is sow them in rows and then sprinkle potting soil over the top of them instead of trying to cover them with the existing soil. It's a little bit rough, but we'll rake it a little more and they'll be ready for sowing the seeds. So here's some potting soil, and I've sowed the seeds in the rows here. I'm just going to go over and put the potting soil along each row, and then when I've done that, lift up the string and then tamp it down and then water it, and then finally we'll put over the cloche to keep them nice and warm on the cold nights, and hopefully we'll let those germinate. So we'll see what they look like in a couple of weeks. So here we are in the rest of Colorado, not a thing growing at all, and still plenty of snow. Whoa, it's cold, I better go inside.